going to talk about demonstrating the impact and ROI. And I hope in this 45 minutes, I could give you some tips and some ideas that you can take away, put to use to help you align your programs with the business, help you sort out the most feasible solution given the problems and opportunities your organization may be facing, and then also give you some ideas on how to use your objectives to design for results. We're going to do that all in 45 minutes. And then we're going to leave you with some resources that will hopefully enable you to put some of these ideas to use. So if you want to grab this QR code, you can now. I'm going to come back to this slide when it's all over, so don't worry if you don't get it. But we do want to give you some things that can help you put some of what you hear into action. We're going to begin with a story, and it's a story of Reliance Insurance. Reliance Insurance is an insurance company based in the southeastern part of the U.S. They sell life insurance policies, annuities, retirement services, that type of programming. And their CEO is Frank Thomas. Their head of learning is Marge Thompson. And the two of them are having a conversation about a communications workshop that Marge brought into Reliance Insurance. Now, she brought it into the organization because she attended this workshop in an open enrollment delivery, and she thought it was amazing. And she thought, I'll just bring it into Reliance Insurance, hoping that the other managers will find it as amazing as I do. Now, it's not just any communications workshop. This is a communications workshop that includes skill building. So today workshop, it included Myers-Briggs solution, and it also included an enablement tool that allowed participants to practice their communication skills on the computer in front of an avatar. And behind the avatar is a human who is watching this practice and then gives feedback to the participant. And the theory is that a person is more comfortable practicing with an avatar than practicing with a human. So not your ordinary communications workshop. It's a pretty robust workshop. So they're talking about this workshop, and Frank asked Marge a very simple question. And that question is, what value is this workshop bringing to Reliance Insurance? And so Marge does what leaders do, what learning and development leaders do. She pulls up the dashboard and she presents to Frank these data. She says, Frank, it's amazing. We've trained 600 managers in this workshop. 100% of them had downloaded the digital badge. It's amazing. They all completed the workshop. 80% of those responding to our end of course survey rate facilitator engagement 4.5 out of 5. On top of that, we have a 90 net promoter score. That means that of those people who respond to our survey, we have way more promoters than we do detractors. And on top of that, 98% of them tell us they know their personality type. Frank says, well, Marge, that is amazing. But let me ask you, how are people applying what they're learning? Are they using these communication skills? And how is that improving sales and customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction? What about team performance? Can you tell me that? Marge says, well, I don't have that data right here, but I could probably get it for you. Frank says, great. Bring me that data in 2 weeks. Marge puts her head in her hand and she's thinking, what has happened to Frank? What has changed about him? Why is he asking me these questions all of a sudden? He went to the workshop. I thought he enjoyed it too. You know, if I'm lucky and I do nothing, maybe Frank will forget he even asked this question. So my question to all of you is simply this. Is doing nothing an option for Marge? Is doing nothing an option? I'm seeing some heads shake, some not. Okay, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to talk to your neighbor and answer this question. Is given nothing is not an option, what can she do? She has 2 weeks to demonstrate in terms that matter most to Frank. 2 weeks to see how people are using it, how it's impacting sales and customers and employees and team performance. 60 seconds, talk to your neighbor. What can she do? Okay, Laura, if you got the mic, let's hear from a couple of people. What can she do?
They can survey. She could survey the attendees. and
Okay, yeah.
ask them, what have you implemented? What are your success stories? Give me some good data.
Okay, so she's going to create this survey
Okay,
and
we've
get these
we've got a couple of
questions.
hands.
Yep. Okay, good. Who else?
Um, we had suggested a survey as well, except given her 2-week timeline and dependability on others to jump on that same timeline can be risky. So we had suggested maybe taking a random selection of those 600 that she had claimed to train already and do a comparison of their performance prior to the training and where they are now, just to take a random selection. So even if a 10% proof of concept of the training.
Love it. Yeah. So get some common measures that you can
Okay.
access. So get your group. Yeah, love it.
Some more?
Love it.
So mine was similar to how you mentioned of looking at performance. So if there's a specific meeting goal, are they exceeding that goal? Or are they still staggering in the same? Checking through pre-KPIs prior to the training and looking at the KPIs after post of the training also to see where they're falling. If we even see like a small improvement on it as well to be able to gauge it alongside with the surveys as well.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Anyone on this
Anyone
side?
else? Wonderful. Anyone else?
Okay, we've got more hands. I love it. We have to share the load, guys. Okay. I agree. You agree? Okay, that was disappointing.
If they were recording calls, they could perhaps use AI to see if they implemented any of the new strategies that they learned.
Yeah, we could use AI.
This side is on fire.
Yeah, this is great.
I think previously you had mentioned something about them knowing like persona groups or them knowing or feeling confident about something. So maybe some sort of evaluation or spot check to indicate that, and then also like to dictate how exactly they feel that or how they reflect that, utilizing that potentially.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, think we're good, Patty.
Okay, good. That's all great ideas that she can do. Of course, she's got 2 weeks to do it all, right? So if they've got AI and there's some opportunity there, maybe what you could do is if you could get a, identify managers whose KPIs are similar, then you could do that random assignment, random comparison. So one group who's been through the exercise and maybe there's another group of managers not, but they're tracking the same KPIs, maybe look at performance. You could do some of that. So there are some things that Marge can do. So all great ideas. The question is, how stressful is that going to be for Marge? And what is she not going to get done because she's panicked over this exercise? It's going to be huge, right? So now she's got to move everything off her desk and focus on, a lot of people will go for surveys, right? You can survey your managers. Your problem there is asking the right questions the right way in such a way that they can and will answer the question. So we often think surveys are an easy solution. They're only easy to administer. They're not easy to design. And then a big issue is that response rate, because what we've learned over the past many decades is that nobody cares more about your survey than you do, and they're not waiting on it. So getting those data, getting those surveys responses. But if you've got an opportunity to do some data comparison, then let's do it. That's a great opportunity. Also, what you could possibly do is randomly select, and random's the key here. You don't want her handpicking, right? Because now you've just interjected yourself into it. But randomly selecting some people and going deeper, whether go deep versus wide, and do some interviewing and at least get some qualitative data from them to see what's going on. So there are some things that she can do, but it's putting that undue stress on her because why? She didn't think about the question up front. Something changed. A different question is being asked. There are many ways that we can demonstrate the value of the work that we do. And you all are familiar with this chain of impact. And if you're not, I'll give you a quick brief what it is. Much of the time, in L&D and other functions. So it's not just L&D. We focus on the activity of what we do, the number of people trained. We trained 600 managers in this amazing communications program. Great. You spent this much money training those 600 managers. We focus on the activity. Activity represents cost, costs get cut. One reason we focus on these data, these level 0 data, what we call them inputs, is because they are easy to access in the LMS. They are right there on our dashboard. We can count them. We trust them. That's why we report them. But when we report these measures as our badge of honor, we are communicating to Frank how much we cost the organization. Activity represents cost, costs get cut. We need to not be so proud of these. Now, this is valuable information. Number of participants, how much you spend, how many people downloaded the badge. It's valuable information, but it is not a measure of value. Measures of value start to roll out as the investment starts to roll out. It begins with what the participants involved in the program think about it. That's those reaction data. They're only valuable if you're asking good questions, though. We ask some really bad questions at the reaction level. What you're looking for at the reaction level are measures that tell you there is a likelihood people are going to use it. Whatever it is, they're going to do what you want them to do. They're going to apply the communication skills. They're going to access the database. Whatever it is, you want some indicator that based on what they have experienced or based on the content they now have or what they've seen, there is a high likelihood they're going to take the next step. They're going to do something with it. Those are measures of relevance, importance, intent to use, amount of new information, and recommend to others. So I see a couple of you jotting it down, so I'll repeat it. It's relevance, importance, intent to use, amount of new information, and recommend to others. Those are measures of buy-in. They are buying into the solution. They're basically saying, yes, this is pertinent to my life. You are addressing an issue important to me. That's what we're looking for at the reaction level. You want to make sure people are bought in. They're willing to do whatever it is you want them to do. They're willing to use the system. They're willing to use the skills. They're willing to take the action you want them to take. That's a measure of value. And it's important to those of us who own the programs. It's demonstrating value from a participant perspective. That is not what Frank is interested in. Learning is a measure of value. People need to know what it is they need to know so they can do what you want them to do. So this learning could be knowledge, skill, information, insight. It could also be the people that they meet, your networking. You there at that conference, who are you meeting? Who did you meet new? Who did you meet new that can help you further your career? Who did you meet that you can help further their career? That's learning. People need to know what they need to know. So the first measures of value are the willingness and ability of people to do what you want them to do. Those are indicators that tell us there's a likelihood they're going to change, or there's a likelihood they're going to comply or change their behavior or implement the process. But in the end, we don't care what people think and what they know. We care about what they do. What are they doing with that knowledge? That's your application. Application data answered the question, so what, in terms of learning? So a lot of times we say, well, learning is power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is only powerful if you use it. Application data, it is a measure of value. It is saying that people are applying the knowledge, skill, information, and insight the way we want them to. And the system is supporting them in doing it. That's where our transfer of learning comes in. The system is supporting it. That means the managers are supporting them. That means IT is supporting the implementation of this new platform, whatever it is. Are people doing what you want them to do? Here we also capture data around the barriers and enablers of doing it, because in the end, your evaluation of your programs and projects is about process improvement. So we've got to see what is the system doing to support or prevent the use of knowledge and skills. But in the end, we don't care what people do. We care about the consequence of what people do. That's your impact. How is that change in behavior leading to improvement in measures of output, quality, cost, time, customer satisfaction, job satisfaction, work habits, and innovation? What key performance indicators that are important to Frank are improving as a result of that investment? That's impact. Those are the measures that matter to Frank. And then the next question is it worth it? Are we getting enough benefit to justify the cost? That's your ROI. And in the end, we are reporting this value chain, or what we sometimes call a chain of impact, that occurs as we invest in the programs, projects, and initiatives that people are buying into. They're gaining the knowledge, skill, information, and insight, and putting that knowledge, skill, information, insight to use so that we can improve the measures that matter most, the measures that tell us this organization is moving in the right direction, and we're doing it efficiently. ROI is a measure of efficiency. It is the most misunderstood metric out there. We read things all the time. People talk ROI, and it's like, no, that's not what its intent is. ROI tells us we are getting more for the money we're spending than what we're spending. It takes the net program benefits and compares it to the cost. So your numerator is earnings, your denominator is investment. Net program benefits takes the program benefits, convert it to money, subtracts the cost from it, and then divides it by the cost, multiply it times 100. So let's say, for example, you've implemented a safety program of some kind, and we've reduced safety-related incidents, by 75%. And as a result, we've reduced costs $750,000. So the result is a cost savings of $750,000. Now, the program cost us $425,000. So to get to your net benefits, we take 750 minus the 425 and then divide it by the 425. Does that make sense to everyone? So you implemented a program. As a result of the program, we reduced cost of 750,000. To reduce those costs, though, we had to invest 425,000. That's going to get you your net. And I see some of you are doing the math already, aren't you? I can see the calculators already smoking. So that's going to get you your net benefits, and then divide it by the cost times 100. What is our ROI? So raise your hand when you have it. You don't have to say it out loud because I can't hear you, but others might. I just want to know that you've done it. I always have a math problem in my sessions. I did not tell the Learn Upon people this, so you did not have fair warning, but it's an ROI session. You have to have it. ROI sessions without math are not really ROI sessions, or they're very brief overviews of the concept. All right, someone got it? I'm seeing this one side of the room to my right. Okay, now we're moving over. Anybody got it on the other side? Got it? All right, let's see what we've got. You should have gotten 76%. Okay? So this is telling us for every dollar we invested in that program, we got the dollar back plus an additional 76 cents. It is telling us that we used our resources efficiently. Not only did we reduce safety-related incidents, we did it efficiently. Related incidents. Okay, well, what did we get for it? You spent $425,000 on it. What did we get? Well, we reduced safety-related incidents. That's not good enough. Tell me more. What does that look like in terms of money? $750,000 in cost savings. See, if you spend $425,000, but you only reduce cost $200,000, you've got a negative ROI, inefficient use of resources. ROI is the ultimate measure of efficiency. It is telling us how the investment compares to the benefits. Now, in terms of what matters most, Frank, this is what we know to be true, is that when this is coming from a study we did some time ago with ATD, it still holds true today, doesn't change. When we ask these 96 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies a question, what rank these measures, so all these measures at the bottom, rank them in order of importance in your decision making. Number one most important was impact. Not surprising. They want to see a connection to the measures that matter to them, because those are the measures that tell them we're moving in the right direction as an organization. Number two most important was ROI. The other measures fell out like this. Okay, awards was number three, which is interesting, right? So awards, we really like awards because that's attraction to employees. Employees like to work for winning organizations. Customers like to buy from winning organizations. So that's a lot about the publicity, important measure. But you look over here at reaction data. It's last. They don't care that people love the program, that it's amazing. We care. They don't care. What they care about, how's it driving these impact measures, and are we using resources efficiently? A second question we asked them was, of the measures, which ones are you currently receiving? And you can see what they're receiving. Now, 94% said they were getting inputs, and they should. Your inputs are the investment. So again, inputs is not bad. It's just not value. It's investment. Efficiency, this is as a percentage, how much of your payroll, for example, are you spending on your on L&D? So that's that type of measure. They should be getting that. You see, some were getting reaction, how it rolls out here, but impact and ROI, not many were getting those data. Then the third question is, how many of you think you should be getting these measures? And you can see the gap here. For the measures that matter most, few were receiving it, most wanted them. So my next question to all of you is this. In one word, tell me, what prevents people from demonstrating impact and ROI of their talent development investments? These are some of the words from the last one. Add to it. So you see some of the words up here. Is it letting you add to it? Oh, here comes some. Yep. Data. Data's big. Access to data. I like disorganization. I like that one. Just not being organized about it. The buy-in. See, that's buy-in to the measurement piece or to getting the data. Quantifying, that was access. Fear. Fear. Actually, fear is one we hear. Yeah, drive or passion to do it. That relates to attitude that we heard from a previous group. Availability of data and resources. Planning. Yeah, planning's a big part of it. Software. Having the software to do it. We've been doing this for so long. You don't have to have software to do this. You want software to do it, but you don't have to have software to do it. Okay, the unknowns. That could be any number of unknowns. Okay, thank you for that. That's great. Thank you. So this is what we hear, and it's very similar to what you all are telling us. Fear of the outcome, which showed up, right? We're afraid to look at results. Okay, just look in the mirror. Let's just get over the fear, okay? Because somebody knows. I mean, they know if it's working or not. So if Frank comes to you and says, I want to see an ROI on that, leadership development, whatever the program is, and it shows negative, they likely know it already. So again, think of this in terms of not just about accountability, impact and ROI and evaluation in general. It is in part accountability, but it is about process improvement because we are here to create and deliver value for the organization, not do training. Our jobs may be training, but in the end, we're here to create and deliver value, whatever it is, whether it's training or managing the reporting, the LMS, the analytics. It is about value creation. So we need to know what things are working. You can't change it if you don't know it. So, get over the fear, jump in there and do it. Don't be afraid because they know if it's working or not. It's too difficult. That didn't show up so much on you guys on the difficulty. Knowledge how, though, is part of the process. It's only difficult if you don't know how. We sometimes hear people say how difficult it is. It's only difficult if you don't know it. Knowing how to get something done takes care of all of this. Costly expense. We hear this sometimes, it's too costly. It is only expensive if you don't know how, because you're still trying to figure it out. And it also gets expensive if someone comes to you, Frank comes to you and says, I want an ROI on that solution. You don't know how, and then you hire someone to do it. That's where it gets costly. Write this down. 5 to 10% of program cost is all you need to demonstrate impact and ROI for one of your programs. That's all you need. 5 to 10% of the program cost. Now, this is once you know how to do it. So once you have system in place, but that's all you need. Otherwise, you're spending too much on evaluation. It doesn't have to be costly. Time consuming. Okay, time to go get the data, time to negotiate in getting the data, time to get the job done. It is only time consuming if you don't know how and if you fail to build it in. This is an example of a program where evaluation was built in. It's a 6-week program. This is one of the case studies we're giving you in the portal. It's a study that was done in partnership with Udemy and the Conference Board and RBL Group, University of Michigan. Dave Ulrich. Dave Ulrich was the content provider. We did the evaluation of it. It was online, an online course, of course, Udemy online, and these people were members of the conference board, so it was open enrollment of sorts. The beginning of the program, we had them identify the business measures they were attempting to improve by going through this program. Then they set up the program, launched the program, and there was 1 week of content and coaching. Week 2 was a week of application. On week 3, day 1, before they got new content, the questions were asked, how'd you do with what you learned? So they're asking follow-up questions on day 1 of the next week of application. How'd you do with what you learned? What prevented you from using the skills? Then week 3, they got more content, more coaching. Week 4 was another week of application. Then on week 5, day 1 of week 5, they were asked the question, how did you do with what you learned during week 4? And then how did you do with what you learned during week 2? So they're collecting application data on day 1 of week 5. Then they get more content that week. Then on week 6, they go out and apply it. Then they have their capstone. The capstone program looked at not only how did you apply what you learned in week 6 and week 4 and week 2, but also checked in on those business measures. Then they did their post-program assessment, pushed it out, and then we did a follow-up on the impact measures. The point of it is they are building evaluation into this. That's what we can do. Build it. Planning was one of the issues that was on your list, was one of the words. Planning for it, building it in, making it seamless. By building it in, we are reducing the time, reducing the cost, and mitigating the difficulty of it because now it's part of it. If we want to create value through what we do, assessment, measurement, evaluation is part of it. You can't create value without knowing what value you want to create and whether or not you got there. How can you say I created value if you don't know? So there are ways that we can mitigate some of the issues. Now, the one that we hear that's most intriguing to us is the last one. No one is asking for it. We invest in Learn Upon. We invest in Coach Hub. We invest in immersion, or we invest in leadership development or crucial conversations or whatever it is, hoping that it's going to deliver value. And with any luck, it might. So we do nothing to demonstrate that value because no one is asking. Give me a show of hands. How many of you know someone who works for someone who changes their mind? Let me see. Show of hands. I can see all of you. How many of you know someone who works for someone who changes their mind? Yes. How many of you change your mind? How many of you have changed your mind on your employees? It happens. Folks, When it comes to demonstrating the value of what we do, hope is not a strategy, luck is not a factor. Doing nothing is not an option. Change is inevitable, progress is optional. It is up to us to demonstrate the value for the money we're investing in our programs. And we do that through a chain of impact because these measures of value are important to the different stakeholders. They are our program improvement or process improvement data. They are telling the story in a compelling way that matters to the different stakeholders, and the measures that matter most to Frank are impact and ROI. The bottom line is to show value, we have to create value. And to create value, we've got to build value in from the beginning. And that means we have to align our programs and projects with the problems and opportunities the organization is facing, with the needs of the organization. The why of what we do is not because somebody needs an LMS. Nobody needs democratized coaching. Nobody needs leadership development. Nobody needs immersion. Nobody needs any of this. What we need is to address the problems and opportunities important to the organization. That is value. What is the opportunity for the organization to make money, save money, avoid cost, do greater good? And that can be at a strategic level or a departmental level or an individual level. What is that opportunity? And then what are the KPIs, the business measures that need to improve that if they improved would help us take advantage of this opportunity? That's why we do what we do. But so much of the time we go into it solution first instead of why first. Why we would do is the business need. And again, it can be strategic, departmental, or individual. What are the measures that matter that need to improve? And from there, all we have to do is sort out, well, what is happening on the job or with the individual that needs to change? What is happening or not happening that if we changed it could improve these measures so we could take advantage of this opportunity? And then what is it people need to learn in order to make this solution work? So we can improve the business measures, take advantage of the opportunity. And how can we roll this out so that people buy in? So they'll go into the solution, learn what they need to know, do what we want them to do so we can improve the measures and take advantage of the payoff opportunity. And then who needs to be involved in the project? How much do we want to spend? What is the potential ROI? If we can do that left side of the V, we're aligning the solutions to the needs of the organizations. We're ensuring we're investing in the right solution. And then all we do from there is ensure we've got clear, specific objectives all the way up to that ROI objective. And then we design the solution around the objectives. Objectives are supposed to be the architectural blueprint for the solution. They are telling us how to design our solution or the implementation of the solution so that we get buy-in, so people learn what they need to know, do what we want them to do, improve the measures that matter most, and do it efficiently. If we will develop these objectives, then all you have to do is go collect a little data and show your ROI. It's a piece of cake. Our problem is when we have vague and nebulous objective, that means we're vague on what the need is. Vague and nebulous will lead you to vague and nebulous every time. Specificity drives results. The better we are at objectives, the easier the evaluation. The better we are on the front end assessment, then the better we are at objectives, then the better we are at evaluation. Here's a quick example. This is a case study in one of the case study books we're sharing. This is an oil and gas company in Oman. And they had a problem. They had these machines were tripping and were spending a lot of time dealing with job backlog. And they said, okay, how can we solve this problem? Because what we know to be true is that the leaders, the managers were not really coaching to performance. So when there was a problem, they weren't well equipped to really coach to that solution. They said, okay, how can we solve this problem while giving our leaders, our managers, developmental opportunity that will serve them well in the future? So they landed on this leadership coaching solution. They put it into place, and they found as a result of the program, through their evaluation, they actually saved the organization $1.1 million This is due to the machines tripping. And then on the time spent job backlog was 9,500. It doesn't look like a lot in the scheme of things, nor does it look like much compared to the cost of the program, but they did want to count it because it's value there. They only spent $439,000 on the solution. Now, on the surface, if you tell Frank I spent $439,000 on a coaching solution without the benefit, Frank's going to say, "You did what? Tell me, now say that one more time, Marge, you did what?" But here you can see cost savings of 1.1 million. The $9,500 is bonus. It only cost us $439,000. It's 168% ROI. Huge payoff. But they did it by starting with, what are we really trying to do here? We're trying to solve a problem. In addition to that, we're giving them skills that they can use in the future. So that value creation begins at the beginning. If we want to show impact and ROI, we've got to start it at the beginning. Now, some of you may be saying, well, I have a program or I have a boss that's handed me a program. I don't know if that ever happens to any of you, or if any of you ever do that to your employees. Say, "Hey, I've read a good book." Sometimes it happens. The boss comes up and says, "Hey, I read a good book. Crucial Conversations. I want a 2-day workshop with Sharon Lavoie next Thursday and Friday. I want those supervisors to attend, and I want to see a positive ROI." So I tell Melissa that. Melissa's in my office. Tell her that, "Melissa, this is what I want." Melissa, as soon as she says yes to me, I'm done with it. She owns it. And I'm expecting positive results. But Melissa, being the astute individual that she is, the astute learner, she knows better because she knows Crucial Conversations is never the problem. There's something else bugging me. So she says, "Great idea, Patti. I read the book. Good book, Crucial Conversations. Sharon Lavoie is a great facilitator." Now, what do you want these people to know that they don't know now that they would know if they attended Crucial Conversations workshop with Sharon? I tell her I want them to learn how to have a crucial conversation. She says, "Great idea." What do you want them to do that they're not doing now that they could do if they knew how to have a crucial conversation? I want those supervisors to learn how to have a crucial conversation with those employees who aren't showing up for work. Melissa says, "Okay, I get it now. You want a 2-day workshop with Sharon Lavoie on crucial conversations, and you want those supervisors to attend so that they will learn how to have a crucial conversation, so they'll have a crucial conversation with those employees who aren't showing up for work." So are you telling me, Patti, that we have an absenteeism problem? And I just look at her and I say, "Well, yeah, that's what I've been saying all this time." She says, "That's what I thought." Now, what is our absenteeism rate? What should it be? We're at 9%. We should be at 4%. That's a 5% difference. What is the cost of an absence? So what Melissa has done is she's reworked this thing. Rather than me read a great book and dump a solution on her, she started asking me questions to get to the problem, because the problem's not Crucial Conversations. I don't care how you get it fixed. Somebody on the airplane told me it was a good book. Sharon's a good facilitator. What I know is that we have an absenteeism problem and no one's doing anything about it. That's all I know. So by changing that, she is getting down, what's the real problem? What is the real need? And a lot of times when that shift and that conversation happens, Crucial Conversations is over. It turns out that's not even the right solution. It's only 2 supervisors that have this problem. Let's give them some coaching. Don't spend all the money bringing people together. We've got to get clear on why we're doing what we're doing. Why is never the solution. Why is never the knowledge. Why is not the behaviors. It's the consequence of the behaviors. That's our why. And then set up those objectives. Go out and collect a little data. Another way to look at it is more linear, those who like linear versus V. This is the model. Again, it's 12 easy steps or 4 phases. We start with the planning. Planning came up. It was one of the issues that came up on your words just a few minutes ago. We don't plan for it. You don't plan for ROI. Now you struggle to get to ROI. We want to plan for it. And that begins with identifying the measures that need to improve and ensure we've got the right solutions. We know what the behaviors are. We know what people need to know. We know we're going to roll it out. And then setting up the objectives so that we can set an expectation for success. From there, we collect a little data. You collect data during the program. Are they buying into it? Do they know what they need to know? Then we follow up to see, are they applying what they learned the way we want them to? And is the system supporting them? And are those business measures improving? We do a little analysis. That's the most fun part. We're going to isolate the effects of the program, convert measures to money, bring in the cost, calculate the ROI, and then also capture those intangibles, those measures we choose not to convert to money. And then we just tell the story. Use the data to improve the programs and the projects. Sometimes you're going to have huge ROIs. You do not have to spend all your money to solve these problems. This is an example of a healthcare organization. It's one of the case studies in one of the books that we're giving you guys. This healthcare organization had hostile work environment. People were leaving, people were complaining. There's litigation costs tied to it. Plus, they were getting a lot of bad press. Everyone knew these behaviors were taking place. No one was doing anything about it. A change like this has to happen at the top. To change behaviors like this has to be driven from the top. So it was decided, given the amount of resources or the limited amount of resources the team had to work this problem, they said, okay, we're going to spend 2 days with the senior level leaders and we're going to give them the data that matters most to them, not what the employees are saying about the bad behaviors. We're going to show them in terms of measures that matter to them. They took to those leaders the cost of the complaints, so the number of the complaints and the cost of each complaint. They took to them the amount of turnover and the cost of turnover on average. And they showed them, here's what it's costing us. And oh, by the way, here's the bad press that we're getting. That was compelling. And then they looked at all the comments and the conversations and the data from the employee survey. And that compelled those leaders to do it, to create change. It got their attention. They got committed. And in 2 days, they figured out a way to solve this issue. They took what they learned from that 2 days and they shared it with their direct reports in a routine staff meeting. Those leaders then shared the same information to their direct reports in a routine staff meeting, and it was rolled out in these routine staff meetings. So the only investment was that 277, right at $278,000 spent on that 2-day workshop. Everything else was rolled out in routine staff meetings. You can see here the benefits, the cost reduction, the complaints. The cost reduction for the first year was $360,000. For the first year in turnover, it was $2.8 million. And this is after they isolated the effects of the solution on improvement. It only cost $277,000. It's 1,000% ROI. You do not have to spend a lot to solve big problems. Sometimes you're going to have negative ROIs. This is Casey Buckley. She works for a large pharmaceutical company. She had a coaching solution. She knew the ROI was negative. She had the data. She had to present it to those senior leaders, including the CFO. She presented that negative ROI, and this is an excerpt from an email she sent me the day after her meeting. She said it was amazing. She said they were so surprised that I could even show data like this around coaching. She said what was interesting was they weren't surprised it was a negative ROI. What they were surprised is how negatively not coaching was impacting their business. She left the meeting with greater credibility. She left the meeting with more funding and more support for her program. Demonstrating the impact in ROI in and of itself has values, and there's a lot of reasons to do it. One is accountability. We need to account for the resources we're spending. We need to do that. We're responsible. We should do that. We need to use our resources efficiently. ROI is the ultimate measure of efficiency. All of this work that we're doing leads to program improvement. That leads to outcome improvement. In the end, what we are here to do is to create and deliver value for the organizations in which we work. With that, I'm going to leave it open. I know we're at time. Hopefully it gave you some ideas, some tips, some things to think about. This is a QR code for those of you who want the resources. If you don't, that's okay with us too, but they're there for you. So are there any questions before we go? I know we're a minute over.
My question is about how do you recommend, or what would you recommend to L&D teams that want to identify, ROI, that want to identify those business needs, and how can they align on those business needs before they start their training initiative?
Yep. Well, one is working with the business unit. So whoever your clients are, who are sending their people to your programs, right? So having that conversation with them up front, what are they trying to get out of the measure? Is that the question? How to get to the business measures? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Having that
exactly.
conversation. But in that leadership book, another way you could do it all depends, right? Some of your solutions are targeting very specific measures. Others, like maybe a leadership program, they're targeting various measures because you have so many people coming from different departments. So in that leadership book, you'll see examples of how organizations have had the participants identify the KPIs, identify the business measures. So part of their homework, their pre-work is identify 2 measures or identify 3 measures that you're responsible for that need to improve, that you think can improve based on what you're going to learn in this course. And when you can do that, you get immediate buy-in because now these people are coming into your program believing that your program is intended to solve their problem, not your problem. So that's a great technique to do it. Have them do the work for you if you can. But sometimes it's just, depending on what it is, sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation with the managers of the participants to come in.
I had a real quick question, and this I'm asked to provide the ROI for impact we're doing for public education, not necessarily employee training. I do that as well, but I have public education courses that we provide. I'm curious if you have any advice on how to do that, because we already have a survey at the end of the course while we have a captive audience inside of our portal to try and get their stress and confidence there. We do a drip campaign with emails out to the persons who took our courses, but there's no guarantee that they're going to click the link, send back a survey, or tell us what's going on. But yet I'm still being asked to say, well, what's the impact of your financial education in the public audience? And I was like, I can't find the people to ask them what they did with the behavior change or the information.
So but these are adult learners still, right? Yep. Okay. Yep. So it's setting it up front. So it's everything. Okay. So everything's about what you do up front, but we did a course. We do a lot of evaluation of open enrollment type courses, and it is more challenging because they have no reason. Yeah. There's no accountability there, but setting it up and telling them as part of this program, here's what we're going to ask, here's what we're going to do. Now, this thing about withholding certificates, you can do that. I don't know. I mean, that
I have that programmed after the survey, that they can't get their certificate until after the survey.
Yeah. So let's think of another incentive to do it. But there's what you really want to think through is what can you do before an evaluation, during the evaluation period, and after. And what you do before is key. And that starts at the program. When they join your program, have them sign something, do something that says, I commit to completing the program in its entirety. And that includes providing these data. And
Okay.
if it's important enough, you can always get them back together, like in a meetup or a Zoom, and collect it that way.
Okay. Nope. I appreciate that.
Okay. I think that's our session, Patti. We have another keynote. So thank you so much again. And yeah, hopefully we can all speak soon. Bye.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for the grace. I appreciate you.